Hey, what's up, Superdads? So, I'm gonna move my microphone into view here so you all can be well aware of the fact that I'm professional about this. Um, Today, I'm bringing a metaphor to you, and a metaphor that I think explains your macronutrients and why each of them are important, and sort of how you should be thinking about the dosages of each of those macronutrients in order to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. This is a metaphor that I use with a lot of clients in order to help them understand things that I just ran through there. And I think that it's pretty useful for those of you who are struggling to get your head around why you would be needing the things that might be recommended according to some diet you're eating or a coach if you're working with one. Okay, so here's the metaphor. It starts with the workouts that you do. The workouts that you do are like blueprints that you're sending to your body, telling it what it is that you want it to build. If you are doing high intensity, not necessarily HIIT training, but just you're pushing yourself close to failure, then you are sending your body a blueprint that says build muscle in the areas that you are working hard on. If you're doing something that's more akin to powerlifting, where you're working on building strength, then you would be sending blueprints that put the re- recruiting of your muscles and the activation of your CNS and the movement patterns that you're using for the lifts that you're training, you're putting those things prior to or prioritizing them over the building of muscle, but that would still be happening likely. If you're doing a lot of long, steady state cardio, then you're sending a blueprint to your body that says, get rid of any extra weight, whether it's muscle or fat that's going to slow me down. Hang on to enough of that fat so that I can fuel these long bouts of low intensity work. And so that's where you see various you know, body results, composition results, let's say, being produced by different forms of training. So that's the blueprint that you send your body. Now, what does your body do with it, or how does it transform that blueprint into a different body, into a body that is adapted? Well, it needs your three macronutrients. Obviously, it needs other things. It needs sleep as well, recovery. It also needs, it looks like it needs physical activity, enough physical activity so that your body's systems are properly turned on and able to adapt. But we're going to focus on the macronutrients today, of which there are three. Those are carbohydrates, fats, and protein. We'll start with the protein because that's the one that gets the most play these days for good reason. Protein is basically the raw materials that are showing up on the building site to go along with the blueprints that you've sent. It's the bricks, it's the boards, it's the nails, it's the cement, all of the things that are actually the physical things that are required to make the building that you are, to follow the plans that you sent your body. So if you're not providing those, that nothing can get built. Nothing can get built without those things. It is the limiting factor for so many people. Then you have carbs. What do carbs do? Well, they've been demonized for a long time, perhaps slightly less so recently, at least the sources that I'm listening to. Carbohydrates are like the workers on the build site. They play an important role. Muscle fiber doesn't just appear out of nothing. It's not like you just eat protein and poof, it turns into muscle fiber. It takes energy to turn to break down the proteins that you eat into its composite component amino acids and then to sort of refuse those things and create new flesh, right? Because that's what building muscle is. You're literally creating more flesh. You're creating meat where there wasn't meat before. And that is a very energy intensive process. So think of your carbohydrates like the workers who actually nail the boards together or lay the bricks or, pour the cement. Okay, what do fats do? Fats are like the management. Because fats are what your body turns into its hormones. And if you're not eating the right fats or you're not eating enough fats, then you might not have the right management team in place supervising and directing the work that is happening. Okay, so let's dig in a little bit into why this metaphor is useful. I mean, first, it points out the fact that you really should be eating a balanced diet where you are getting enough of each of those things. But the key word there is enough. When I say you should be getting enough for carbs and fats, it means getting enough but not too much. There is a sweet spot. And anybody who's ever worked, in landscaping or construction or really any job where there are workers in management will know if you have too many workers on the site, you get the too many cooks in the kitchen, to draw on another metaphor, sort of effect. Diminishing returns with each person you add. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be adding workers to the site. There is a sweet spot, as I said. But beyond that sweet spot, what you end up with is workers who don't have work to do. When they are in that situation, they're mostly just going to sit around, or they're going to get in the way, or they're going to slow things down. And if you just keep adding more workers to the work site, you're increasing, you know, things just become less efficient, right? People are getting in the way. People are causing problems rather than solving them. And this is really what happens when you eat too many carbs. You end up with extra workers, and those extra workers turn into body fat, which, gets in the way of your progress. The same thing can be said for management, for the fats. When you have the right number of managers, but also the right kind of managers, that is where you achieve the greatest productivity, efficiency, or effectiveness, all three. And so we don't just want enough fats, we want the right kinds of fats, and we want those to turn into the right kinds of hormones. Let's say you have a good amount of testosterone in your body, and that can be likened to a management team that is very motivating, that keeps your workers and your body on task, and just keeps it driving forward. Whereas if you have too much estrogen, it might be one that is a little bit too, hands off, a little bit too welcoming of delays, and it just lets things hang out, right? It doesn't keep the project moving forward. It doesn't put the project first. If you have too much cortisol, that might be akin to like a management team that freaks out over every little thing, right? And micromanages, that causes all sorts of problems where there don't need to be problems. So, not to stretch the metaphor too far, but you can see where really the goal is to get the right people and also not too many. Because if you have too much testosterone or too much of any hormone, too much of any kind of manager, you might end up with just having too much management and not enough workers. And obviously, that not as much gets done there. Another thing you can figure out from looking at this metaphor is that carbs are really the preferred source for actually getting the muscle built, right? In terms of the energy you're drawing on, because the workers are expert at doing the work of putting the material resources together and building the physical structure. The managers can be brought in to do that work in emergency situations, so fat can be turned into the energy that is needed to sort of build muscle, but that's not their specialty. They're not going to be as effective. They're certainly not going to be as efficient at doing that work. They can do it, but obviously better if you have like dedicated workforce to do that. Okay, and that brings us to protein. Now the thing that should stand out about protein is this: it's kind of hard to have too much of it, because unlike workers and unlike the management, when you have too much protein, it doesn't go to waste, right? If you get too many bricks delivered to the site, you can just sort of like put the bricks to the side, keep them out of everybody's way, and then use them as needed. Now, that's not exactly what happens in your body. What your body will do is it will turn those unneeded physical resources, the protein that you eat that's in excess of what you need to be building muscle, it will use for other bodily processes. It'll help rebuild other things that need tending to. But the key point is it's hard to get too many bricks and boards and nails on a build site. You probably need more than you think, and they're not going to go to waste if you get a lot of them, right? And they certainly won't slow you down or cause negative progress. Another thing to recognize about protein, according to this metaphor, is that some building materials are preferred over others. They're just better for building with. They're going to produce a sturdier structure in a shorter amount of time. And so these are your bricks and your boards. or they're your steak, they're your eggs, they're your dairy sources, they're your chicken, your tuna, these generally animal sources of protein, because they have a complete amino acid profile, which means that they're usable for all sorts of different tasks. Whereas, bamboo shoots and palm fronds and rubber bands might be usable in some situations and circumstances. These are readily usable in all sorts of circumstances. So, can you build with non-animal sources of protein? It is possible, of course. It's just not as easy. And so, if you're looking for fast and solid results, then you're going to want to give your body the best resources possible. Give it the bricks and the boards. Don't hand it a bunch of bamboo shoots and palm fronds and rubber bands and say, build me this skyscraper, because you won't get the results that you want or expect, perhaps. That's the metaphor. I hope that you find it helpful. I hope it helps you to understand how these things interact with one another, because really so much of getting what you want out of exercise and diet, it's not so much nailing one or the other, it's how they have to come together to form a synthesis and get you that ultimate result that you're pursuing. So, in short, give your body the resources it needs, give it high quality resources that it's able to use, that have a complete amino acid profile, that are bioavailable to it, or readily bioavailable to it. uh, Give it enough workers to actually get the work done that you're looking to have done. The kind of workers doesn't really matter. In fact, there aren't really that many kinds of workers. They are the less skilled labor. Not that any of you workers out there, or whatever you do, that you're unskilled, but in this metaphor, they basically can do whatever job you give them. It's all manual labor, and they're capable of doing just about anything. So let's say they're super capable, that they're unskilled. They're highly skilled. They're just not as specialized. Okay, so you can really give it any kind of carbs, because there aren't really that many kinds of carbs, right? You've got complex carbs, you've got simple carbs, but really it's just about how quickly your body's able to break them down and put them to use. When it comes to management, though, and fats, there are definitely different kinds of management teams, different kinds of managers. So you're going to want to get the right management team in place, the one that is consistent with the goals that you're pursuing. So that's the video for today. Thank you so much for your attention. I appreciate you watching to the end. If you have any questions or comments, obviously you can leave them down below. You know how YouTube works. If you're interested in simple workout programs that you can do anywhere with very little equipment and almost no time commitment, you can check those out below as well. There's a free one called 3-Minute Muscle if you just want a taste. But if you want to dive right in, I've got a bunch of other ones there, as well as a Facebook group that offers all sorts of free support and resources, answering questions that people bring up. And a lot of the videos that I put on here come from interactions that I've had with clients and people in the Facebook group, issues that I know are coming up with them, or things that they're having trouble understanding. So we would love to see you in there. Thanks so much for your attention, and go be super.